with Coach Drew Nelson. Thanks for coming on, Coach.
Hey, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
So, Coach Nelson is the head football coach at Pacelli Catholic Schools, which is right in the middle of Wisconsin.
Yep.
So, to kick things off, can you just share with the audience a little bit about your background and how you've ultimately got involved in your current role?
Yeah. So I grew up, went through school in Westby, Wisconsin. It's about half hour south of La Crosse, Wisconsin. Um, Played 4 years at Westby. Obviously, just loved the sport. Definitely wasn't good enough to play at the next level, but it just kind of carried through. And I knew that I wanted to get into coaching. Um, I spent a year as an assistant coach with the Winona Rough Riders, which is a semi-pro team out of Winona, Minnesota. And then my fiance, now wife, got a job up here in Stevens Point. So we moved up here, became an assistant coach for many years, and then the opportunity came to take over as a head coach. I went through that process and was named head coach 9 years ago, I think it was, give or take. And been at Pacelli ever since. My wife and I have two kids that are now in high school. My daughter's a sophomore, and my son's a freshman. So we're well vested, well interested in this school and how things go.
Nice. So, having 9 years of experience, I'm sure you've seen a lot over your career so far. What advice would you give yourself if you could go back in time and maybe figure out what would work best?
If I could go back in time, you look at things kind of hindsight of getting more, you want more kids involved, maybe getting in the school more frequently, getting the kids that are in the hallways out for football. I think we've done a good job of getting new kids out every year, as well as retaining kids that have come out. It's that kind of stuff, and it's hard with my coaching staff. There's two guys that are in the school system. Um, one works with junior high, and one's in the high school, and the rest of us are outside the school system. So the only time we get to really see the kids is at other sporting events, during the winter, during the spring, outside in the community, that kind of stuff. So it is kind of hard at that aspect. So maybe go back and see if there's other coaches through the system that are in the school, just because it's easier to stay in front of the kids that way. But also, going back, I've been really fortunate with the coaches that I have. They're really good guys. They, had some come and go ones, and now head coach over in Green Bay, that kind of stuff. So I've been really fortunate, but just working more with the kids, I guess, to get into the school and getting them in football.
Gotcha. And also, coaching philosophy wise, can you talk about some of the things that you try to instill in your players from like a value standpoint, but also, just life lessons that are important?
Sure. Football, in my opinion, and I think a lot of coaches' opinions, is the greatest sport in the world. And I try and tell the kids that, and we try to tell the kids that football is one sport where you have to practice all week for a few hours of game on Friday or Saturday whenever you play. You're not playing 26 games or that kind of stuff, so you're out practicing more than you're playing. You get one shot at it, so the hard work, you teach that, discipline, all those coachisms that people say. But I think the not having the instant gratification teaches the kids in a long way. They're not able to come back, maybe they play a game on a Monday and come right back on Tuesday and play another game or whatever it is, in, a different sport. This one, things go wrong on Friday. You gotta come back to work on, Sunday or Monday, come back ready to earn it for that following Friday. So it leaves a little bitter taste in your mouth, but I think ultimately it teaches the kids, hey, not everything's going to go right. And we got to, buckle up and get ready to go no matter what happens. Life's full of adversities, and we have to meet them head on.
And I think that's a great point with the instant gratification is most kids in today's day and age, they're used to just getting something instantly and having and in real life, when you get into the workforce, whether you're a coach or working in the business world, what I found is that, most things that are worthwhile take a long time.
Yeah.
And those are great lessons to learn as an athlete because, whether you're a freshman who's just getting started off or maybe even like a sophomore or junior who hasn't had the opportunity to start on varsity, you have to know that whatever you do today might not pay off tomorrow, but it's going to pay off when the season rolls around or over the next few years.
100%. I agree. Um, with our numbers at in the mid 20s or so, it's hard to have a JV team. We were fortunate this last fall to have one. We have a big freshman class, but you're right. It's some of those guys that when we didn't have JV may not have played varsity for the first 2 years of high school, just because you don't want to throw in a 14-year-old kid against a 17, 18-year-old guy. There's a whole lot of safety issues in that we have to keep in mind. So these kids have to sit the bench, take their time. And they still run the same amount of sprints, all that. They lift the same amount of weights, all that stuff, knowing that, hey, I'm probably not going to get to play on Friday night for a year and a half, whatever it might be. So I think ultimately that does build a little bit of character, especially like I said earlier, we're able to retain a bunch of kids. So I think the coaches and I are doing something right, making it fun while working on hard to try and win these football games, but also teaching them life goals in the process.
For sure. Yeah, definitely agree with that. And with respect to being a head coach, and also you mentioned how many guys are on your staff officially?
On our staff, what do we have? 7, I think, total. 7 coaches right now.
Gotcha.
So with this last year having JV, I had to hire a couple more guys to run the JV stuff. So we probably, we've got a good set of coaches, and right now my off season goal is to just try and find roles for everybody because they're all great guys, and I want to keep them around. So I'm trying to move guys around, trying to find the best fits for everybody, so I can keep guys that came on last fall, just because they're great guys. I think they're full of a lot of good characteristics that I want these kids to see, be around good family people. So one of those that, and the other coaches are open to their ideas. A bunch of these coaches have been with me now going on 10 years. So I don't, they're understanding and they're open to any ideas to keep the staff together.
Well, that's a great situation having 7 coaches and you said about 25 players this past year.
Yeah, we'll be right around 25 probably again this next fall.
Nice. So I'm sure, at least from a ratio standpoint of coaches to players, that seems like it's a pretty good ratio, right?
Yeah. I mean, some probably think, hey, well, they've got too many coaches or whatever, but I think we've got just the right amount right now. We're able
Yeah.
to do a little bit more individually, focus on a little bit more, hopefully this fall of technique wise, get some more eyes on kids to make sure that we're teaching them the right way to do things.
Yeah. Yeah. And a couple years ago, so my story kind of started when I graduated college 2 years ago. So I was a player at Gettysburg College, and the year I graduated, I started coaching youth ball 7th and 8th grade. And my program, we only had 3 coaches on staff. So we were a little bit short staffed. We had about 30 players. So,
Okay.
it's always better to have more than too little.
Oh, for sure. And being a head coach, and I've been doing it for a while, so I kind of know what to expect. But man, there's always stuff that comes up that you're not ready for, you're not prepared for, you haven't seen. We always make a joke about adding chapters to our book of coaches, just different things that come up. So it happens every fall where I have to leave practice to deal with it, circumstance outside, at the school or whatever it might be, where I know I can leave practice and I know I've got great guys out there that can run practice without me there. So that, helps out immensely, where if we only had 2 or 3 guys, it would be hard to do that, have to leave, but I'm able to leave, handle things that I need to handle with the school, whoever it might be, and get back to it and not miss a beat at practice.
Yeah, and I've really found that to be a hallmark of a great program is just making everything process oriented. So,
Mhm.
if something comes up, and it always does, you know, if another coach can step in and just do things the way that you want them to be done because you have a system in place, I think those are like the ways that some of the best programs run
For sure.
from like middle school all the way through college and the pros.
Yep, I agree. And unfortunately, I never had a chance to play in college or anything like that, so I don't know how practices run, but I know all the way, our junior high program all the way through our varsity program here, we run the same stuff. I pretty much do the same stuff in practice. These kids that are in junior high that come to high school kind of know the ins and outs already for the most part. They have the play calls down. They have the, the whole numbering, all that fun stuff down. So we can just kind of hit the ground running on day one when we open up here in the fall.
Yeah. And then get into a little bit more like X's and O's. What are some ideologies or maybe some philosophies you've come to adopt over the years of being a head coach?
Yeah. So I'll kind of backtrack here. When I first came to Pacelli, I was just an assistant for 2 years. Like I didn't say two words. And then they let me coach a defensive line for a few years after that, and then defensive coordinator for a couple of seasons. And our head coach at the time, Bob Rochek, I think he's like the number 3 right now in the state. He passed away a couple of years ago, but I think he's number 3 all time in the state in victories. Um, so I was able to sit back and learn underneath the Wisconsin legend. When I was in Westby, I played under Mark Armstrong, who also won a plethora of games, and the coach before him, Neil Hoven, Wisconsin Hall of Famer. Our offensive line coach is a Wisconsin Hall of Famer. So my history, we have a bunch of good coaches that I've played under, learned under, did all that fun stuff with. So coming in to Pacelli and being named head coach, we had 1 year where we ran kind of a spread offense underneath the 1 year, a guy that was here for one season. So when I came in, I knew that there was philosophy that I want to get back to. I want to get back to what I saw work at Pacelli when I was an assistant, and a couple of coaches that I know that I needed to hire. So I went and met with them, got them back on board. Excuse me. And we went and put in our old offense at Pacelli. So right now, my philosophy is we try to run the ball, we try to pound the ball. A lot of teams are, people want to go spread, do that kind of stuff. That I'm more of a believer in running the ball. The old school mentality, kind of, 3 yards in a cloud of dust. It's not a triple option offense, but it's kind of a wing key pro style offense. But we do a lot of trap game, a lot of inside traps, outside traps, just trying to get the ball moving while running it. And then defensively, we kind of adapt every year on that with the kids we have, the body styles, the size. But yeah, as far as, philosophy is run the ball, on the ball first, try and earn things up the middle. And then from there, hey, if we can throw it a couple times a game, I'll throw it. But, we take pride in running it.
Yeah. And especially at the high school level,
Yeah.
I never like officially coached. I've helped out with my high school here and there, but at the high school level, I think that's, obviously it depends on the situation, but
Mm-hmm.
I think, that's key to be able to run the ball.
It is, and we are in Wisconsin, so we'll start in August when and it's hot for everybody. I get it. It's 90s, low hundreds up here, and by the time hopefully if you're good enough and you finish your season, there's snow on the ground. My opinion is maybe throwing the ball when it's cold out with high schoolers may not work all that well all the time. So I think there is some philosophy behind being able to run the ball when it's cold. So we obviously try to do that all season. So we're ready for those runs in the playoffs if we're fortunate to get there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I didn't know it gets hot up there.
Oh, it gets hot, very hot, and then again, everybody throughout the country, I know things helped with it this fall, but we had to run morning practices a few times this year because the heat indexes were, I can't, like 110 or whatever it was. So the WIA said, if it gets above this degree, you can't practice, that kind of stuff. So a bunch of teams up here were running stuff in the mornings just to make sure that we could stay out of the heat in the afternoons. So that was the first time I've ever encountered that, and how many years of being at Pacelli since 2006. So another chapter to add to the book, right?
And it hasn't always been like that, has it? Like,
Not that
having,
hot. This summer and this fall were something different altogether. So, yeah, usually, it gets hot in the 90s, and then the humidity and all that stuff too is that we get up here. I love Wisconsin. I've lived here my whole life, not planning on moving, but it was different this fall with these temperatures that we dealt with.
yeah, definitely. So, all good stuff, Coach. Any last words you want to share with the audience today?
If you're looking to become a head coach, just be yourself, be true to who you are. Um, don't try to cater into different things. If you have a philosophy that you think works, use that philosophy, and then adjust if you need to. But just be yourself. Kids can pick out, coaches that are kind of fake, or whatever, however you want to say it. If their coaches are questioning things, be yourself, trust the process. Uh, if you want to pursue it, pursue it. Absolutely, it's a great opportunity, great job. And if anybody ever needs any help, feel free to reach out to me.
Awesome. Well, Coach, awesome talking with you tonight. Really appreciate you spending the time, and best of luck as you start with the off-season training and into camp next year.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.